Hello. Welcome to another interview with Dissonant Waves. We're calling this something. I don't know exactly what this subseries will be named yet. But uh Trix, Ritalin, or Callum, and myself, Dominic, we're all here. And we have a couple people from the Weekend Run Club with us.
Hell
Wish to
yeah.
introduce yourselves.
Yo, what's going on? I'm Mitchell. I'm in the Weekend Run Club.
I'm Greg. I'm also in the Weekend Run Club. I play guitar.
Play guitar. All right.
All right.
Let's see. So new lineup, new stuff happening, new album coming out soon. I just saw there was a Daily Herald article kind of going over some of the things that were happening to y'all. But Mitchell, Greg, why don't you just kind of introduce everyone in the band as it stands now and kind of like what's going on?
Yeah, I got it. So, we're a five-piece band as always. Um, and it's still the same, like, how would you say it? The same like anatomy of the band. We're still a two-piece guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. Ryan Lammers was actually in the band for 6 months before the new lineup, so they don't even feel new at this point. But there are other guitarists, and then Gary Zucker is our drum player, and Zach Brame is our bass player. Super punk, cool guy, and yeah, that's the new lineup.
It's
Greg also
awesome.
plays guitar.
And you all just released a new single, Blossom, coming out. It just came out on Friday. This is Sunday now. This
Yeah.
is going on like April, but either way, new single. How is that going? As I'm even kind of hyping it up for a little while with like your Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of like getting excited about stuff and then telling the world about it like a little too soon. So this song was done being written probably 9 months ago, I would say. And it's been recorded for a couple months now. But yeah, it feels really good to get it out. I think like going through a lineup change is a little bit weird, especially when the way we wrote before was very democratic. And so like with the new lineup, we were still playing all the same music, but it felt a little bit weird to me personally because um, I was really ready to like put something new out to like get the new chapter going. But it takes a hot minute. I mean, everybody first we had to like make sure everybody knew all the old stuff. Then we had to make sure everybody was like wanted to be there, and was like having a fun time with it, and that everybody like wanted to keep going. And then we had to kind of like suss a few things out just in terms of like how we wanted to sound together live. So all that takes time, and I feel like just the older I get, the harder it is to like coordinate stuff that works for everybody's schedule. So,
Sure.
but that being said, I mean we've moved pretty quickly. I mean, the album was done being written like conceptually at least, or like demo wise. All the demos were tracked by what, midsummer or something, Greg? I don't even know.
Yeah, so,
Um,
yeah, something like that. And I think you know, yeah, that's when they got done being tracked. But I feel like you had a pretty good idea even before that of what you wanted the songs to be and how you wanted them to go. But yeah, I would just say that like all of that kind of you know I don't even know what to call it, but just getting the new lineup up to speed. Uh, yeah, that was part of creating the new stuff. Learning how to play together and learning how we all fit together. I could listen to the old recordings and sort of tell um, how things worked before, but then you get three very new and one sort of new person. Uh, making very loud noise in one room. You've got to um, figure out where you fit, and that influenced how the songs came out for sure, and of course how we play them live. Um, so
Mhm.
it has been sort of a process, but I think a pretty smooth one. Like things have been, at least from where I'm set, it's that part of it's been really smooth.
yeah, all the hurdles we had were like obviously very stressful internally for me, but I would say we handled everything really well, and uh, I really like the dynamic. It's chill. there's I don't really know what else to say about it. I was gonna say there's no drama, but that implies that there's always drama with everything else I've done, and that's not necessarily always been the case either.
I actually have a question for Greg. So coming into this, did you learn every single old Weekend Run Club song?
That's a good question. I I have learned every Weekend Run Club song that we played live since I joined the band. So the album Zoo is the 2020 album has a lot of songs on it, and we've played most of them live. But there's definitely one or two where when I practice, I just go to Spotify and play along with the recordings. And there's definitely a few that I see on the album, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely don't know that. Hopefully that doesn't get called for the next show.
I think we've played
encores
everything.
are always scary because
Everything except Overwhelming, and we maybe played Casually Dancing at that festival. But yeah, those
we
are only
played
two that we
Casually
haven't really
Dancing
played.
at that festival. Yeah. But yeah, and I also learned them. A lot of the parts are very particular. Like I think in some other projects that I played in, there's been a lot more room for improvisation. Not saying that I'm in like a Fish cover band or anything, but the Weekend Run Club guitars are very orchestrated, and they fit together really precisely in a really great way. And how I play with Ryan fits together very carefully, and so it's a different mode of playing than with some of the other projects that I play in, which is fun. It's good to get something different. But yeah, I did learn them. It took a long time, but mostly just panicked. Oh my God, we have this show in 3 weeks. I need to be able to play the tunes. Yeah.
That's interesting because like I've talked to other bands and I've been asked like, oh, what do you want to hear us play? And I'm like, oh, how about this song from this album or this song like 4 albums ago, right? And the musicians kind of look at me like, oh, we don't know that. I'm like, okay, fair enough. If you're not there for it, then you don't always have to like learn it unless you're going to play it live, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it also like just the with Mitchell Mitchell will choose a set list, like knowing the particular songs that he opts for also tells me a little bit about like his preferences not saying that he doesn't love all of the songs like his children equally and all the same, but just knowing the kind of sounds that he like gravitates towards. Yeah. But I needed you to say it, not me say it. Yeah. That was also instructive, knowing that the kinds of things that he was leaning towards out of choosing from the old Weekend Run Club stuff, then going into the new stuff. That was,
All right. I've spoken a lot, so I'd like to give Trix and Ritz or Callum here a second to talk.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to ask my first question of the afternoon, morning, whatever time it is over in that crazy country. So I actually finally got around to listening to the new single this morning, and the first thing that I kind of noticed about it as well is that there is quite a stylistic change in the sound of the song. Whilst I guess on Zoo, Okay For You EP era, I would kind of more consider that a bit more closer to the indie rock in the more of the vein of like a Two Door Cinema Club. So I think you get the comparisons at the start. This is kind of more going into a more pop rocky kind of sound. So it's almost like a genre change. And I know you were talking about going into a new chapter, but it's just because of the lineup change that you've decided to go into a different genre. Is that what the new members are more towards for the reason that you've gone to this specific sound, or was this something that you were always planning even before lineup changes happened?
This is a good question. We talked about this a little bit in another interview, but before the way that decisions were made it was very interesting. Like it was supposed to be that like everybody's input was weighed equally, but we all kind of like certain people had different things in common, so it never quite panned out that way. And we used to have a lot of conversations where someone would come up with an idea and people would be like, well, does that really sound like us? And I think that was kind of like someone's way of saying like, I don't like it without saying I don't like it. And I just don't care. Like I think genre hopping is cool. I think like this whole album conceptually is about liminal space and like the unknown. And I've always been one to try to push the boundaries in like most of the things I do. So this song, I called it Gay Weezer in like a post I made on Facebook. I was like, yo, check out this Gay Weezer song that my band wrote. But
I think I
we
read
have
that.
stuff that is definitely closer to the two-door cinema dancey stuff. We have stuff that actually gets really, really hard, quite like alt rock, borderline punk. Definitely some hard vocals on some of the tracks. Definitely some like sugar pop, indie pop kind of stuff. So we're definitely dancing around, but it's still. I mean, I feel like if you write something, it's going to sound like you, and my voice is on it. So, but definitely, I think one thing that's notable is the production quality. I always wanted to put something out that was a little bit more polished, and all we could agree on for Zoo is kind of what Zoo was. But I actually was pretty unhappy with the way that the vocal production went on Zoo.
Really?
I ended up having to do a lot of it myself, and I didn't even know what I was doing back then. We had some disagreements about who was going to mix the album internally, and that was a very frustrating time. And the person that ended up mixing the vocals, I would have been more comfortable if someone who's more experienced. The same person we're working with now, actually, I think Zoo would have been way better. But I mean, Zoo is a really good representation of where we're all at. Like it's a little chaotic at times, um, and we were pretty chaotic as a lineup. So yeah, I mean, I love the album and actually listened to it again a couple of days ago, and I was able to look back on it and really enjoy some moments in particular, especially. So I still like it, but yeah, I don't care so much for like trying to fit into a box because what matters the most to me is like talking about what's on my mind and presenting like my feelings and my emotions. And I just feel like one genre isn't always enough to do that. But at the same time, everybody kind of keeps me in check. Like no one's gonna let me do something too crazy. So that's nice.
It's funny
Yeah.
that you say that.
I was going to just quickly say as well here, Dominic, and then I'll get back to you eventually at some point. Love
Sure.
you too, Dominic. So with that whole Zoo is I kind of where all the band members were at the time. I guess with what you said with the sound of it is what you kind of mean. If we go look back, obviously into OK Cool's music that's being released, kind of even currently the stuff that I have the year. Do you feel like that feels like a bit more of a continuation of Zoo's instrumentation? My God, I'm bad at English today. Apologies.
I
And was
think
kind of a
if
sign
you
of like differences in creative output, because every band will obviously have differences in creative output. That's just how multiple people will always work.
Mm.
Do you think that was truly I'm not trying to put this in any kind of way of saying like, hey, they didn't like the sound that you're going to go with. I was just saying more that you could kind of see that some of the members definitely did want to stick with more of that style in there that Zoo kind of he came out with, because obviously one of the big things that I noticed on Zoo when first listened to it, was it like 3 years ago at this point, Dominic? When did you bring it up?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
Happy 3 and a bit years to that. Is that there was quite a lot of work on the guitar on that album. It was surprisingly guitar heavy for what was still quite a poppy album, even though, as I've said, it is still more towards that indie rock sound.
Yeah, so you're definitely hitting on something there. So I started the band with Chris, who left after Zoo was released, and
that was the Rhode Island one as well, wasn't it? I believe.
Yeah. So everything until this new album, or even Strangers, which came out on a comp, but we're actually releasing that with the album. Strangers is like the first song that was written without Chris, and so it's also the first song where the guitar heaviness started to fade away, which I'm happy for. I think it's nice to. I think anything being too dominant is going to take away from a mix. So there's a time and place for everything in my mind. But Bridget and Haley, very very like they wrote their own parts for most of Zoo. However, they did not like come up with the concepts for Zoo. So most of it was Chris or Chris and me, and then a couple songs were just me or just Joey, and then everybody kind of came in from that. Like Let's Think Back, for example, the majority of that was written, and then we jammed it, and then Bridget and Haley came up with that incredible bridge rhythm solo section. But yeah, so Strangers was really our first chance to break away from like the guitar heavy stuff. And then obviously now, since I'm writing the majority of the concepts for the music or like the structures or the whatever, the whole vibe, it's definitely going to be vocal heavy, which is definitely going to push it more towards that pop realm, I think.
I was gonna say it before, it still relates to this, is that I think for me the thing that stood out the most about the Zoo is the way that the vocals interacted with the rest of the instrumentation, because you're more classically trained, and that's not typically what you expect in like such a poppy guitar heavy. Like you expect more of that rock style vocals, and I think you being more classically trained is kind of what sets Weekend Run Club apart for in a lot of ways, that makes it more memorable and stand out.
It's cool that you say that, because I remember in the last album, like trying so hard to show the training I had in hopes that people would think that I'm more skilled because of it. And in this new album, I've almost like you could tell, like now you can tell I'm so much better of a singer than I was 3.5 years ago, for one. And but two, I think that this time there's a lot more intention as the songs trickle into. It's with Blossom, you can hear this. There's barely any vibrato, barely any proof that I had classical training, which I really like. I think I'm growing as an artist because I'm starting to abandon the crutch of leaning on my roots, and I'm just trying to keep things a little bit more nuanced. So I'm happy with that, but yeah, that's definitely an interesting point that you brought up.
I want to ask a question to Greg,
Yeah,
and then
but
turn over the tricks.
Also in that, you oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I think there might be a tiny bit of a lag. Sorry. What I was going to say is that one thing on Mitchell's vocals is that I think what the training's done is that he has such control over his voice. Essentially, now he can do whatever, and so now those kind of tools and techniques are getting employed in a very without blowing too much smoke, and more of like a masterful way. Like rather than, like you said, Mitchell, rather than like just trying to not show off, but like demonstrate the training. Like now it's like, when to use it and when not to use it in really effective ways. Well, I mean, for me, like when I watched you, when I mentioned this before, when I watched Mitchell track, even do the scratch tracks for Blossom, and the song's going in his phones, and we were listening to this take, I was just like, oh wow, he really knows exactly how I want this to sound. Like I was really really impressed from take one. So yeah, I think as the songs come out, not only will you see some more of this genre hopping, as Mitchell said, I think there's a lot of cool vocal stuff coming. Yeah.
I was gonna ask actually you, Greg, what, as the guitarist now, like what do you see your role as, at least in this incarnation Weekend Run Club? Do you want to kind of continue to try to push for some of the guitar heaviness that you kind of saw before, or do you kind of want to go with the flow and see where you can kind of add in your touch?
Definitely the latter. I want to fit in with the rest of the ensemble, and the fun thing about playing in this band right now is that everybody is so good and can do so many different things really well. Like I said, you're going to hear a lot of different styles when the rest of the songs come out, and part of that's just because the other people in the band are so good. And so I definitely feel like it's stretching me as a player to, draw on influences and techniques that I don't usually use to fit in and really serve the song. We started tracking when we started tracking these songs. I still felt new, and so I definitely was sort of leaning on Mitchell's vision for the songs, and really, we really like hashed the parts out very carefully, to sort of fit in and serve the tune. So I really like the guitar parts on all of these songs, and I think they fit really well together. My parts and Ryan's parts. And so I guess it's not that I want to push for guitar heaviness, because even in the tracks that you might not call guitar heavy, I think there's lots of really good guitar work happening.
Did you say
and stuff that I'm proud of having put down. So yeah, I think serving the song, that's what I always want to do in all the projects. You serve the song.
That's a really good answer.
We're gonna have to take
so
an
we have
intermission soon as well, but
Yeah.
before we do that, Trix, would you like to ask a quick question?
Yeah, not related to Guitar Gear or songwriting or anything. What game has been occupying your time in these last few months?
Games.
Yeah.
All right. I don't play as many games as I used to, but I can answer this very much because I have always loved RuneScape. I played it religiously for 15 years, but I had to abandon playing it because of the sheer time it takes to progress.
Oh yeah.
I watch a shit ton of RuneScape videos, and I'm still even embarrassed to it this day. So I teach voice lessons when my students come over. I make sure to I use a lot of YouTube music with my clients, and so I'll literally make sure I've turned on the music tab so they can't see my recommended videos because it's all RuneScape content. I'm also a big fan of Super Smash Brothers. I used to play that for a job a few years ago. So I play casually with friends still, but I do not I don't compete anymore, which is so good because that takes up so much time too. But yeah, those are good games. You want to know what else is a good game? The TikTok algorithm. Trying to figure out how to make things popular on TikTok is a stupid game, but it's what I'm playing.
Have you found any success?
I've had a couple. I think I have one that got 30,000 views, but it wasn't band related, so that kind of sucks.
What can you do? We are going to take
I actually want to just quickly say on that, that I do know a lot of times when you see a band or an artist gets that viral treat or the TikTok, and they just get no bonus streams or anything because it's not band related. There's this really popular treat that will always go viral, will be the top of Reddit, and it's by Exciting Excellent, who's another one of those fifth wave emo artists, but her streams just never go up. Every time that treat goes viral.
It's super true. I've found too that it's useful to remain active just in case. But yeah, a lot of bands who do get viral hits, they get attention and success in the way of potentially a team to work with and better representation. But if you go Coyote Theory had a song blow up this year, and they're doing national tours and stuff now, which is awesome, but it's their one song that's popular. Their other stuff isn't, it's not going to change. It's not going to give you everything, but literally anything helps. When you bring into even just if you got 300 million streams alone, you could fund a tour with that. Or everybody could stop working for 2 months. It's little things like that.
Right.
Cool. I think we'll take the intermission.
Right.
When we come back, I want to ask Greg the same question that Trix asked Mitch there.
Cool.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Alright, when do I get onto the Homer's Wear tribute compilation? Cool. So I guess to start off, Greg, answer the what's the game that's been occupying your time in the past couple months question?
Oh man, I don't play a lot of video games. I'm a extremely casual chess player. You know,
Ooh.
on the bus, you know, waiting for things to happen. I'll pull up a blitz game. I'm really bad. My elo is terrible. I'm really
I
good at
feel
like
that.
puzzles. I have a really high puzzle rating because if you tell me there's a right answer, I'll like sit down and try to find it.
Oh
But if
yeah.
I'm just like casually playing, I'll just like hang pieces because I'm not paying attention.
Same way. Don't worry.
Yeah, but that's fun. That's a good way to spend time. It makes me feel smart.
Our biggest two gamers aren't here tonight. I'm pretty sure Gary was like, "Hey, I can't make it. I had plans to play Resident Evil 7 with my bestie," and we were like, "All right, respect."
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
literally what happened.
It's honestly probably a better use of your time.
But no, yeah, I'm sure if he hadn't already made plans, he'd be here. But I know he loves like Fire Emblem. I know Zach loves
Ooh.
weird games.
Ooh.
Zach is just weird all around, but in a good way.
As they say, Roy's our boy.
Indeed.
Roy is our boy. Yes.
I know we've been to a Smash tournament together at least once, Mitch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Did I
definitely true.
Did we do RuneScape at all? I know I downloaded RuneScape for at least one person before.
I mean, I've been playing. I played that shit through COVID. Like I was on and off of that game. I finally maxed my account, and then I was like,
Jeez.
"What am I doing? Like, this is bad."
Yeah, I can't remember who I downloaded RuneScape to play with again, but it was somebody at some point during COVID. But yeah,
It's a good game. I've like psychoanalyzed why I played it for so long, and I think like it was a combination of just like being able to. It was my first like way to talk to strangers and get out of that like Naperville like bubble that I felt so
Yes.
trapped in for so long. And I don't know. It was interesting how it stuck with me so much because I played that game religiously for so long.
Oh, as a kid, I definitely did the same thing when I was like 10. I was running into celebrity impersonators everywhere. Like, hey, I'm the Sprouse Twins. I'm Drake Bell. That's who I always went questing with because they would always tell interesting stories of like, yeah, we're on set, we're having fun, but we're playing RuneScape.
What an incredible celebrity to pretend to be. Like, I'm Drake now.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might not be the best.
Holds different weight these
times.
days.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, doesn't
sure.
like Henry Cavill play like World of Warcraft or something?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure famous people beat gaming. Like they got money. They're not working all the time. They got time to kill.
God, yeah.
I mean,
they get him on the advertisements. Surely it has to be true at some point.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill told the story about like almost not getting the call to be Superman because he was doing a raid or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that makes for a good ad. Oh my god.
People be playing video games, and
Yeah.
it's not just celebrity. It's not just the common people. It's everybody.
Indeed.
So, how many video game references are going to be in the new album?
Honestly, zero. But I'm glad you said that. Have you guys ever reviewed anything about Origami Angel?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I brought that into to Dominic, and then Dominic fell in love basically instantly.
Yeah.
I'm in love with them. I'm going to see them in April in Milwaukee. I'm very excited.
I just saw them in like October. They were here in Chicago.
Yeah. How were they?
Oh, they were great. They were so good.
Yeah, they're just very cool. I like the wholesome energy. Like the music is all about like friendship and love and honesty and just like it's a very endearing way that the singer is vulnerable with this stuff. But to answer your question, I genuinely think. Hold on, let me think through all the lyrics real quick. I'm gonna pull them up just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's none. A lot of therapy references. I wrote a lot of this. So a lot of weird shit happened writing this album. Like I thought my band was gonna break up, and then it did. And one of the songs is like about that, about what it felt like to fear, because I wrote it before it happened, and then it happened. There's a lot of stuff about like COVID times and breakup stuff with my ex-boyfriend, what it meant to move on and try to like date some new people. There's some that y'all might not get this reference, but Dominic, there is definitely a reference to Touche in this album, which is exciting. The
Ooh.
bar that we don't go to anymore because it's canceled. But
Are you talking about that specifically?
no, it's about my friend RJ, who I met there, and a crush I
Okay.
had on him. But so that's cool. I think it's just a lot. It's a lot more like visibly queer of an album. I don't know why I felt so weird about it, but even in Blossom, like just using like a gay pronoun, like just saying he's into me was such a big choice for me to make, which
Mhm.
is interesting because like as a person, I'm very obviously queer most of the time, and I would never try to hide it. But putting it in my art in a way where it's like a little more naked was actually really scary for me. So that's a big leap that I'm happy that I made. There's some anger in this album, definite anger. I'm trying to be a little bit more confident with certain things I see in the world, and lots of my anger at like the queer community and where it stems from, and just people that I really wanted to be positive in my life who I felt let me down.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, I should really
Yeah.
reference more games. I'm gonna take a note.
No, but
I'm happy
I
to
mean,
think of a question if you want.
yeah, go ahead.
So I think we touched a bit onto it as well. You're obviously talking about in this album, one of the big things that you're excited about is the genre hopping on there. Is that something in which it's all kind of just decided in the whole group, like every genre there is decided in a group session or something we'll call and say like, hey, this is the sound that we go for this song? Or have there been like a certain person that still wants to say, hey, I want to explore this type of sound on the song whilst you're doing the recording? Or has there even been songs, say, that you thought should sound a completely different way to the eventual outcome?
I've definitely been surprised by some of the results, but like it's a little different now because I come up with the vibe and the idea, and I let everybody know like this is the message I want to portray. But everybody has like very different influences. This isn't just like we all like to do, like in the last lineup we all liked a different kind of rock, or like we all liked a different kind of pop. But this is like Zach has only ever played in punk bands, like real punk, not even pop punk. Like Greg likes folk and Americana and like just like dad rock, 80s rock, stuff like that. Ryan is really into like just straight up indie, like Brit poppy, jazz. You're both into jazz. And then Gary and I like a lot of just random shit. Like we both like pop punk, but like my interests are very vocal centric. So I listen to a lot of alternative, a lot of indie, a lot of emo, a lot of pop punk. And so everybody's kind of bringing a little bit of that into the songs. And every so often I'm like, okay, I need a little less, this needs a little less drive, obviously. Like this is taking away from the vibe. But I would say more often than not, like people know what they're doing. Like I'm not, there's a reason we're a band, right? I can't do all of this alone. Like I need people's help because I can't play guitar well. I can barely play it at all. I can't play bass. I can't play drums. And so like the influences are pretty they're not only are they honest, but I don't know, everybody's so good at what they do that they can kind of see what I'm going for, and they're like, oh, you wanted this, sure. So yeah, there's been a couple times in like a jam sesh. Usually jam sessions are a little bit more one-on-one. Like I'll sit down with one of the members and we'll suss out parts together and then go from there. But like one of the songs, like right when we were working on POW, that's what I'll call it for now because his name's not out yet. We had like a back and forth for like an hour where I was just listening, you were just playing random solos, and we kind of crafted something together. So it's fun how that works because I don't think there's any right way to write. It's just gonna be different depending on the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about genre hopping, you brought up Origami Angel, and I think that's a really good example of a band that likes to genre hop a lot. Are you going for something as audacious as what they kind of do, like with Bossa Nova Core, for example, or kind of the recent Live from the UFO? They kind of go off and kind of find these other sounds that sound a little bit different, but also sound kind of it's still in their umbrella of what they like to do. But Bossa Nova Core, they're studying Bossa Nova and going into that realm for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything that intelligent, to be honest. But there is a big change having another voice on the album this time. Um, Definitely more gang vocals on this that kind of give you that indie vibe. But then there's also some harder vocals on this that that can be prominent in some of the songs. Like Zach's voice is very different than mine. And the second you hear a scream, if it's too focal, like the song is no longer indie. Like it turns like for that moment, it is just full on punk. And so getting used to that has been very challenging for me. Even like listening to the mixes that we're working on right now, there are times where I'm like, can we get away with this, or do we need to like change it, or do we need to hide it, or even hearing my own voice do certain things is a little bit different. But yeah, I would say like we're not genre hopping too much. It still all will feel, maybe it's indie pop and then the next track is like pop rock and then the next track is indie rock. So it's like you're always keeping one of the two adjectives that describe the sound. That's the best way I can describe it. But it's kind of like a game of telephone, right? Where as it goes on, it kind of may get lost for a little bit, but it never strays too far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say like that's not our with other bands, I think that's a goal of theirs. Our goal is not to experiment with genre first and foremost. I think that the difference in styles does reflect just like genuine interest in not that those interests are not genuine, but just any kind of like change in style is just like, what if we tried to do this? Like there's more synth on this record.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just Mitchell was like, hey, like these sounds, let's work them into songs. And yeah, I think Zach will always, if you put Zach alone in a room, he will try to turn a song into a pop punk song. And so even on some of the softer tracks, like having Zach's influence to sort of drive things in a heavier direction, I think made for some of the surprises on the album that are really good. And yeah, so it's not like that's not our intention. I think that just kind of happened organically when we got basically 5 new people in a room together to try to build out these songs into something that exists.
That's a good way to say it. Very good way to say it, for sure. The intent is still just to kind of like, I don't know, it's like a chapter of my life. And I felt like the whole point of the chapter was unknown and liminal space. Like I think that's probably normal for a lot of people in their 20s, but I wanted that to show. I wanted it to be clear that I'm more confident in myself than I've ever been, but I'm still really exploring a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So a question I'll have as well, it'll be a very quick question as well, for both of you. In the terms of not just genre hopping on this album as well, but in future projects, whether they be Rick and Run Club, whether they be side projects, whether they be a completely new band at all, is there any genre that either of you would actually like to explore in the future that you are finding an interest, whether that be something that's very kind of close to what you're doing or even far off, say if one of you decides to do the Unholy hip hop tape?
I love this question. Greg, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I've never really been in a punk band, but I do like punk music. So I don't know. I really like. And now I am friends with more people in punk bands, partly because of Zach and partly because of other people that I know, and I would love to explore that a little bit more. I mean, when I was like in my early 20s and wasn't playing in any bands, I would have said, if you could let me be in any kind of like a frontman of any genre, any band in any genre, I'd want to be in like a pop punk kind of thing. So yeah, definitely that, which seems very doable. That seems very within reach. So hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in a similar vein. This is kind of just the way my voice has evolved, but I've always loved pop punk, emo, post-hardcore. So I actually took screaming lessons a couple years back because I teach and I wanted to learn how to teach screaming. And there's so many cool things as like a clean vocalist to learn because you're using different anatomy. Like you're using things other than just your vocal folds to make a lot of those sounds. And that's like if you're a voice nerd, it's like a challenge. It's like, oh, I want to be able to like learn how to do that sustainably. So I love like Origami Angel, Hot Mulligan, Pierce the Veil remain in my top 5 bands like any day. So anything like that would be incredibly cool. I also think alt rock, getting into a more theatrical, belty sound with my voice would be very, very fun. I also like a lot of alt rock, like something like Nothing But Thieves, super, super cool to me. And I actually really do like folk, like more poppy indie folk stuff. But
Folk
there's a lot
would be
of
really nice.
there's a lot of cool stuff to be said about people that use their voice small in an intentional way. Like some people only know how to do that, but like for someone who's trained for so long to make big sounds, making little sounds that are speech-like and more intentional, sounds very, very fun for me.
There definitely is beauty in minimalization.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Does
I
anyone
interrupted
else?
you, Bob. Choice now.
An off-topic question. This one is a bit more for Greg, but Mitchell, if you have an answer, it's just kind of more the nature of the question. Do either of you have like a dream piece of gear, like a guitar or effects pedal or something like that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the dream changes every week, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Right now I play mostly single coil guitars. I'm actually I'm in Tuscaloosa right now. I'm visiting my parents. And there's this great guitar shop in Tuscaloosa called the Guitar Gallery. And I picked up this used Strat from the 90s. And it's not like 90s Strats are known to be amazing, but I picked it up and really liked it. So I mostly play single coil guitars, as does Ryan. Ryan's really into offsets. So Ryan plays like Jazz Masters.
Offsets are great.
Right now I just have they look so cool. I've never owned an offset. I will one soon. But right now I just play through like a clean Fender amp and all the dirt comes from pedals. But I would really love to. This is not so much a dream, so much as something that I think would be a different kind of challenge. I would like to start playing through like dirty amps because I almost always have some kind of overdrive in my signal chain just to like push, even if it's just a boost to push the front end of the amp to give me a little bit more compression. I would really love to get like a some kind of reasonably nice Marshall. I think that would be a ton of fun because Marshall, the clean sounds you can get from Marshalls are just like stunning. But something that I could get a little bit more gas from would be fun. So I think that's maybe a dream piece of gear because these new the nicer end Marshalls are not cheap. So I think
they are not.
Later on the line. Yeah, maybe that got a little too gear nerdy for a second. Sorry, but
it's
Checks will
fine.
go gear nerd with you all the way.
Yeah, to go a little gear nerdy on you and I mostly play through an overdriven Ampeg clone, being a bass player, and I'm also just going to flex my dream bass that I own.
Awesome.
It's a Rickenbacker 4001.
Oh, that's amazing!
It's not a real one; it's a Japanese copy.
That color. Still, that color is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's I'll send you photos later. It's a Japanese copy made in the 70s, beautiful. But it is playing through an overdriven amp that's like just overdriven as it is an entirely different beast. And yes, you can clean it up a little bit with your knobs and whatnot, but it is a lot different than playing through a clean and then adding an effects pedal.
Yeah, it's more alive.
Yes,
I have an AC30. I have like a AC30 that I sometimes play, but it's 100 pounds, so I don't gig with it.
Oh yeah,
but
tube amps are beautiful, but they're heavy.
Yes, and the master volume on that is really good, and so you can kind of get the front end working. And I don't love the like Vox distortion for at least the stuff that I play.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a totally different thing where it's like all of a sudden I'm like, this is completely uncontrollable. How do I fix it?
Yes.
So I think that's definitely like a challenge that I want to not, if not master, like just understand. I feel like anytime I've understood pieces of gear better, it's made me a better player.
Yeah.
Mitchell, any gear?
I actually do have gear. I'd love to get a nice synth. I don't know what kind. I've done so much research and then I realized like how little money I have and I'm like, maybe one day. So that I'd love a even better pair of in-ear monitors. Ones with like I have like 5 or 6 drivers in them right now. I'd love like a shit ton of drivers. It's probably less. It's like 3 or 4, I think, for the pair I have. I got it from a very unreliable company, but it was very cheap because of the company. Um, and and then yeah, I'd love to like one of these days I'm just gonna bite the bullet and buy better like plugins for messing around. I'd love to learn how to do vocal production, like in production in general. It's overwhelming to think about it, and I learn more about it every year, but yeah, nothing specific that I'm shopping for right now.
I mean, you did your own EP.
Oh, we don't talk about it.
No? Okay.
No, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. I've learned so much since then, and it kept me sane. Like literally, when I wrote that, one of the songs I had written at the time is a song on this next album, and I showed it to the band, and they jammed it, and they're like, "We just don't really like it," and I was like, "Why?" But now we're putting it out, and I like it.
That's
So
good.
I'm excited for that.
Okay. I was kind of actually going on about it a little bit. Want to kind of get into a question more about the image of the band and kind of going into your new record label, Say 10. Because at least from my point of view, it seems like you're kind of embracing, I don't know. I see a lot of wrestling singlets and things like that kind of popping up as kind of the image of the band, like gym fitness gear kind of stuff. And I know
I,
Satan's very like out there and a very like queer friendly label. Obviously, Dog Park Dissonance is on there.
oh
I
yeah,
wonder if you want to
Dog
speak to that
Park.
a bit.
Sarah Rose project is on there. Check their project out. They're the singer of Sarah and the Safe Word. Very cool stuff. But yeah, I think I've talked a lot about authenticity in some interviews and like just trying to be more myself and get people to I want to be seen as someone who's just going to do whatever I want. And I want everybody in the band to feel like they can do whatever they want. However, I also want them to look cool and I don't want to look like an idiot by myself. So a lot of the conversations, I think now how it goes is like, Mitchell, tell us what you're wearing and we'll try and like go off that. Even in terms of color palette. But yeah, I think like there was a time where I couldn't be aggressively queer. I don't need to be obnoxiously queer. I think there's a wonderful like place for that. I'm not sure We Can Run Club is like it's not that venue because we're not all queer, but we are all like in phases of our lives where we're trying to be ourselves. And I don't want that to be limited. So like being comfortable with my own body has always been something that's been tricky for me, not necessarily because of like I like or don't like the way it looks, but um like maybe just the upbringing I had, anything that was pertaining to my body or that was like showed me as a sexual being kind of made me uncomfortable. Like I always just kind of like viewed people as non-sexual beings unless I was involved in with them in some way. And so I think for me it's trying to just allow myself to take up space in a lot of different ways. So I'll wear like leather on stage sometimes now.
Oh yeah.
I'll throw on some kink gear. I wore my singlet. But that was like a special show because we were headlining and I'm like, guys, let's wear something fun. We did onesies. Well, I don't think we stayed in the onesies for the show, but we all wore onesies one night. It was a very hot temperature wise, hot experience. But
Imagine.
yeah, definitely. Like it kind of goes back to that question I had before was like, if I make the music queer, is it still commercially viable and will people still want to like listen to it? And obviously that's such a stupid question because you don't have control over like anything in this industry. And I think that if people are going to like you, it's going to be either because they like the idea of you or they like your authentic self. And I think if people like the idea of you, there's so much more room for disappointment. So I'd rather just like rip off the band-aid, you know, like if we ever get like to the next level or the next 2 levels, like nudes of me will be leaked, I'm sure. Like I'm not gonna collude. Like someone's gonna threaten me. I'm gonna be like, bet I'll just share them on Twitter. Like let's just get this over with. Like it's not that big of a deal.
It's the best way to success. I don't see any reason why to struggle.
Yeah. So and thankfully everybody's been really cool with it. I think in the past there was I wanted to start pushing those boundaries a little bit, and we got in some fights about it because 1 or 2 people was just like, I'm so uncomfortable with this, and I was like, then don't wear it, but I'm gonna do what I want to do. But yeah, no, I definitely, I'm glad somebody noticed this because I'm like slowly turning up the saucy knob, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that as far as like the way that we present ourselves, I think that the biggest thing, and I guess part of this is maybe just authenticity, but we have a lot of fun on stage. Like I think that that's just a big part of it. We want to look like we're having a good time. I think that actually something that like flicked the switch in my mind was when we played with Carver Commodore and just seeing what an incredible show they put on by like just, I mean, they can like get intense and like be like almost hardcore sometimes, but like they're very clearly like being goofy and having fun with each other on stage. I found that very inspiring. And even just like the physicality of the stage, like we put Ryan and I next to each other, which sort of the first time we did it felt almost like off balance. But putting the 2 guitar players next to each other has like let us like interact as guitar players in a really fun way.
The synergy is so nice. And in our old lineup, we had our guitars on opposite sides of the stage. And it was like, it just felt like 5 people playing 5 instruments sometimes. But yeah, firm believer, if you're comfortable, if you're happy with how you look and how you are presenting yourself, and all 5 of you are doing that together, like that's so much more permission you're giving to the audience to let go. Because it's not easy to get the audience involved, especially in
totally.
Like sometimes in the local scene, people don't really know what's expected of them,
right?
Because it's not a giant 20,000 auditorium. Like they don't feel as anonymous, and I think it can be hard for people to feel like they can let go, and it's our job to like show them a good time. So I like doing that.
And when you're at a show where there's, or at least as going to shows, if you're at a show and there's 40 people in the room watching the band, you're more part of the show than if you're one in a crowd of 1,000.
Right.
So yeah, having fun, and also just like, I don't know, I'm a little clumsy on stage. I'll like almost fall sometimes, and just like being able to like laugh and sort of not take ourselves too seriously. I hope that's coming across in some of the photos and the way that we're presenting ourselves. But that's how I feel when I'm with Weekend Run Club. Like I feel like I don't have to like put on any kind of persona. I feel like I can just kind of have fun with my friends, with my new friends.
I like it. I learned very quickly that I wasn't going to be the cool guy on stage. So if you're not going to be the cool guy, you got to find someone else to be. And so like I think silly guy fits me, and I think everyone in my band is really cool. But like if they're feeding off my energy, like there's not much to lose, and it's, I don't know, it's fun just be like silly little guys.
Yeah, it does feel very much like we're being a bunch of silly little guys, which I love it.
I was going to go on from that because you recently had a show at the Empty Bottle, and I must apologize. I tried very hard to get there. But I tried looking for parking for like 20 minutes, and it just was not happening.
Bless your soul. I'm so sorry. That sucks so bad. Parking there is actually pretty rough.
There's like a street that like I thought I could park on, and it's like, oh, you need like a permit to park here. And then like another one was like, oh, my car is just too big by like a few inches. Like,
thank you so much for trying to come to the show. I feel so bad that you couldn't make it.
It's fine. I mean, I wanted to ask more about the dynamics of doing like a free show, and like what does that entail, and like how does that, I guess, what are the stakes of that are versus like a paid show, or at least like a show where there's a cover for the bar or something like that?
The stakes feel a little higher to me since I'm like in a management role, but they're fairly low. You get a base pay, which is nice that, venues aren't taking advantage of you. Um, and I played so many shows that I didn't get paid for, so it's like, no, that's fun. A place like Empty Bottle has a solid patronage, and a lot of people just come to the shows, regardless of who's playing. So I felt a lot of pressure to make an impression on those people because if the majority of the audience is someone that you've never like that isn't there to see you, you want to get as many of those people to be a new fan as possible. So I definitely, I was hoping for to make that impression, but it wasn't crazy intimidating or anything. I didn't feel like the stakes were too high, but it was new. I think that's the only ever advertised free show I've played. I've played shows where we got screwed over and made no money, but that was something else.
I feel like that's the Chicago scene sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I see posts here and there.
A lot of scenes.
But yeah, the bottle is great. I played there for the first time with another band that I'm in January.
Shout them out.
And then getting to play there. Oh yeah, Mid American Elevator. Yeah, check them out.
And Holy Joke. Check out Holy Joke on Spotify.
Yes. Yeah, Holy Joke is my baby. But yeah, we the bottle is just, they're great to their artists. And the like Mitchell said, people come out and hang out at the bottle. It's like a sort of a destination. I'm not sure how they managed that, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a great thing. So yeah, they treated us really well, and it was also nice because, well, this can break both ways, but the other two bands on the bill, Ripley and Bridget Calls Me Baby, are a lot different than us. So part of that is like, oh well, if people came for them, are they gonna like us? Are they just gonna tune it out? But I think what ended up happening is that we were so different that everybody was like, whoa, that was cool. Like, what was that?
That tends to be what, like, in Chicago, there aren't a lot of Weekend Run Club-esque bands. I mean, with our newer sound, I think we could dance with a couple of other acts, but for the most part, we're very used to being like either we're the odd one out at a punk show or we're the odd one out at like a pure indie show. So we deal with that.
You could tour with Beach Bunny or something.
Oh, I'd be so down for that.
Yeah, Beach Bunny, if you're listening, take us on.
Actually,
I find this really funny just for 2 seconds because I saw Beach Bunny on Wednesday.
Ryan's band August Hotel played a show with Beach Bunny like just a year before she popped off. Like they played at what is it the in Evanston? What's Space?
Oh, I don't know.
They played at Space for like 20 people with Beach Bunny.
What's our connection there, Dominic? The Cardinal Heart.
Yeah, the Cardinal Heart era, way back in the local show days. Beach Bunny was on the thing in like 2015, I want to say, so I probably saw them.
Yeah, Beach Bunny recorded their EP at the same place we recorded Zoo, but they didn't mix with those guys. They just did the recording there.
So we're about 5 minutes left. Let's try to get each of us to get out one last question if we can.
All right.
Jax, go ahead.
I would actually like to go last because I'd like to kind of start a tradition.
Okay.
That's fair enough. Dominic, I'll let you ask the last question while I think of one.
All right. Very simple one. Can you tell us anything about the next album is going to be called and when it's going to come out?
I want to tell you what it's called, but we haven't technically made the announcement yet. We've dropped the initials. LSR is the initials of the album, so you can guess what that means. As far as timeline, we're still waiting for masters, and we're hoping to get it out. There will be more singles, so I'm not sure if it's gonna just be a lot of that, and then the album is kind of out, or if we'll save a couple for the big drop. But there will be a lot of new tunes throughout the year and in the coming months.
This year, do you think?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm hopeful. I want it this year, but we'll see.
Go ahead, Callum.
Dream places to tour.
Literally like Australia. I've always wanted to go to Australia or New Zealand. Like either of those would be really cool. Anything in Asia would be cool. Literally anywhere but the United States would be cool.
Greg?
Well, my answer is going to sound a lot sadder now that Mitchell's naming other continents. But I was like, I've never been to California.
You know what? No,
somebody
that's fair.
That's a fair answer.
I don't think
Somebody
anybody in this
take me
chat
out.
has been to California.
No, I've been
West
to
Coast
California.
tours.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're like the one who's been to California and you're Australian.
Yeah, the Australian one's always been there. Back when I was
West Coast
like
tours are hard.
10 or something, but yeah.
Because it's so much mileage and it's more expensive. So like doing a
Exactly.
West Coast tour means you kind of already made it quite a bit. So that's a
Totally.
that's a good one.
Beach Bunnies was in Australia, so I mean that means something.
Yeah.
Bands out here can make it.
Granted, they didn't sell out here, but yeah. That's really all that matters.
Yeah.
All right, Tricks, go for the question.
What's your guys' ideal sandwich?
Yo, the Weekend Run Club sandwich. That was stupid. We had shirts that were based off of that.
I have the
I
shirts.
remember that.
I feel like a really good smash burger. I don't know if that counts as a sandwich.
That burger's a
Otherwise, like-
subset of sandwich.
A really
It's close
good
enough.
actually no. I would say like a chopped cheese sandwich. Kind of like a Philly cheesesteak. I make this like 3-pepper garlic aioli.
Ooh.
That is really good. That is my ideal sandwich.
All right. Greg?
My ideal sandwich exists. It's the Big L from Fontano's right next to UIC that I eat like twice a week.
Fair
What is
enough.
it?
There's a great Italian subs place right next to UIC, and I'm a grad student there, so I eat there quite a bit. And really good Italian sandwiches. Gotta say, damn near perfect.
What's on it?
It's like 2 different types of salami and mortadella and provolone and mayo, lettuce, tomato. It's perfect.
That's
It's
can't go
simple.
wrong.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, any drinks with either of those sandwiches?
I'm a fiend for
peach-
the you go.
Peach pear LaCroix, easy.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, Greg and our spicy water boys, we're obsessed with that. But if I'm splurging, a peach Sprite Zero from those Coca-Cola freestyle machines, top notch.
All
I
right.
do love my seltzer. But yes, with a minute left now, that'll be doing it for us at Dissonant Waves with Mitchell, with Greg, with Weekend Run Club for this week, this interview. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. This
Yeah,
was a ton of
thank you
fun.
for having us. This is so fun. I listened to this podcast so many times, so it's cool to be on it.
Oh,
How
wow.
many times have you listened?
Like 5.
That's
Five,
a great
six.
record.
That's
I love
that's,
it.
that's more than enough, people.
Yeah.
If you two have got anything quick to plug, I would shout it out now before the Zoom meeting ends.
Playlist our single, like it, send it to all your friends if you like it. We didn't really even talk about the single that much. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
I know
listen
this
to
was a
the
bit centric on that,
Awesome.
but
It's
yeah.
come out.
Listen to it.
Yes.
All right. Well, it's gonna come off any second now. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll do it for us.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having
It was
us.
so nice
This
to
was
meet
really
you guys.
fun.
Thank you
Nice to
guys.
meet you as well.